Hey folks, Jonathan here. That storm, we didn't get much of anything, but you know, certain times of the year and certain weather, humidity, I don't know. I get a problem in my shop, of course. As you can see, that's water. And I get it everywhere. On all my machines, I guess the cold steel, temperature change, humidity or something, but anyway, so I always end up running around wiping off machines and oiling them down, and everything I got tries to rust. You can see my plates already started trying. This is what happens when you don't have insulation or a climate controlled shop, so you're fighting it all the time. But anyway, I'll get this cleaned back up, but working away on it. I've got my whole board for my guide. I've just got this in as a temporary because I'm getting ready to do my pin for my cam. And you know, this cam was 14 millimeter inside, so I actually turned it down to a 1/2 inch on that end, because the way that I've done this before, well, I'm about a 1/2 thousandths over, but the way that I've done this before and done it on the other one, I used my machine to line up, and I went down through, and then I actually have a 1/2 inch reamer that I ran through it, that way I could get the hole perfectly right. So without having to bore it or anything like that with the boring bar. And so anyway, that's what we're getting ready to do. I've got to get it lined up on top and get my about 3/1000 backlash in it. Now I've still got to get a key in here. I've got it, you know, everything's done machine wise. It's keyway's cut on the shaft, keyway's broached in here. I've had to use, let me see if I can pull this out enough that I can pull the gear out. Ended up using a spacer here, which will work just fine. Ooh. My light, I got the light that goes out and on. It goes out every time I pick up the camera, I believe. So got to stay out of the shadow here. Anyway, here's a spacer that I made to put on here, and this actually comes out and touches the center of the bearing, and also, you know, brings my gear out where I need it. Now, as you can see at the top of the gear, you know, there's still some clearance because this starts tapering down. Well, I don't think I've got it tapering much now. It's about straight. But anyway, it's smaller than here. I'm not going to worry about that because the key goes all the way down. And so what will happen is the key will go in. We'll have a bushing here that slides on. That will be for our seal. And then on the outside of that, we're going to start cutting it tight. It's going to be a piece on there to open and close our points. We'll have our points plate on the outside of the cover there. Might change the cover up a little bit, redesign it, you know, some, or machine more on it, or whatever I've got to do. But that's how we're going to do this one. We're going to run wasted ignition. In other words, it's going to fire every rotation of the engine, even though it don't need to fire but every other rotation. The only other way I could do it is if I ran it off the cam, or, you know, I could have ran another cam shaft here and brought a shaft out that turned and ran it, you know, over here. A lot of ways you can do it, as long as it's turning. You either need to turn it the same as the engine or half speed of the engine. And although I'd like to do it half speed, you know, I'm not going to worry about it. Let me see. I think we'll go ahead and try, you know, to get everything set up and see if we can get that board. We'll bore the hole and then we'll get the pin in, and then once I figure out where it needs to be here, I'm going to go ahead and machine the pin back down on the outside to 500 thousandths so it can press into the cover right. The reason I'm doing this is I don't have a ream for the 14 millimeter, which is the center hole of this, and you know, I'm just trying to stay away from doing, you know, work with tooling that I don't have. In other words, I don't have a lot of stuff for metric or anything. I don't have a ream or anything like that. So anyway. And but we're moving right along on it, and hopefully we can start getting something together. All right. Oh yeah, I wanted to tell you one more thing. I took this plate back out. I took the engine back apart. I machined further down in the case, and because of the lobe being so wide, but not only that, it wouldn't have really mattered as much on the lobe as it would have. This would have been hitting because of where the location was, how far back it was. It would have been hitting our gear, and I wanted to have the cylinder straight. I didn't want to have to turn the cylinder to bring this, you know, out toward the edge. So you know, what we're doing here is we're working backwards. Instead of cam, lifter guide, you know, up to the head, because we've already, you know, our cylinder's already made, we started backwards. We started, you know, from the valve, we centered it, brought it down, working back this way. And, you know, it's just sort of doing it in reverse. But all right, I'm gonna get at it. Okay, folks, I wanted to show you how I set the backlash on this. I think I showed you on the other one, but, you know, everybody may not watch both video or both engine builds. So anyway, what we've got here, I put this, the end that I turned down in on our pin into a 1/2 inch collet, and I've got it set up, got it run down, got it on the pin. As you can see, it's turning good, and like I said, it's 14mm shaft. So what we're going to do is we can move our machine around to bring it where we need it for our backlash. But what I've got to do first is I've got to make a key, because it's going to be hard to do without a key in it. But I'm going to go ahead and make a key 1/8 inch for this. I don't have any key stock, so. But anyway, how we're going to set this, I'm going to cut a thin piece. Richard had sent me some different thicknesses of shim stock, and it's stainless, so it don't crush like brass, and you know, I don't want it crushing anyway. But he just so happened to send some 3000s, so I'll cut me a little thin strip of that, and I'll actually put it on one side. And when I say thin, it'll be small, but I'll put it on one side of the gear, and I'll bring it over, and we'll just use a piece of 3000s to shim it, and then we'll have 3000s backlash, and it should work out just fine. But I've got to get a key in there first, because it's too hard to check the backlash and with both of them turning. So anyway, let me get that done, and I've got a piece around here somewhere. Yep, a piece of 1/8 inch flat stock, and we'll get one out of it. So all right, I'll show you when I get it together. Okay, we've got it in. It's not it's a little bit long, but I will it's got to come back out anyway eventually, so we'll file it off a little bit. But that's going to work just fine. And of course, I'm going to use, I don't know if I can use that key or not. I may end up having to cut another one, or I may make our, it's going to be kind of rough to do, but I may make our lobe for our piece and our seal, piece to ride the seal together. We'll figure it out. Been nice if the crankshaft would have been about a 1/2 inch longer, but this was the damaged crank on the end, and I did cut it off just a little tiny bit. Still got some thread issues, but I've got a way of fixing that, and I'll show you that a little later. But we'll go ahead and adjust the table over until we can get this over toward it, where we can see if we can start checking the backlash here. Looking pretty good. That might be a little bit close, but we'll get us a piece of shim cut and get in there, and we'll test it from there. But it's going to work pretty good. It's going to work just fine. Alright, get it. Okay, here's what I cut. Like I said, this is 3000, so I'm going to get it in there, and I'll just get it in between the gear, two of the teeth, and we'll go from there. And like I said, 3000 is what I want. One of the reasons I don't go measurements from center to center, because you can get all this information on the internet. This is in a 1236 tooth, and this is a 1218, and that's the part number for the sprocket, because it's the diametric pitch is 12, and it's I want to say a 14.5 pressure angle. Teeth count is 36 and 18. So, you know, they'll give you the exact measurements to be able to set this hole up this hole up and to have the exact right backlash. My problem is this is a new gear and with a little bit different design than what this is. Now they'll run together fine, but they're not, you know, they're not exactly the same, and the you know, there's wear on this one, there's not wear on this one. So if I set it up with factory specs, chances are I'll have more of a gap in it than what I want, more than the 3000s. So, but anyway, that's how we do this. And you know, I guess this is about as easy as I could come up with of a way of doing it, you know, using the milling machine. So anyway, so what'll happen is once I get it where I want it, I'll lock my table, I'll zero my machine on the well, I say DRO, but it's actually the screen on the programming screen for the 2-axis. But that's what I'll do, is I'll make sure that it's all right, and then I'll take and I'll raise our spindle up, I'll replace it with a drill bit, come down, I'll drill our hole, and then I'll bring our hole out, you know, probably a little over 7/16, and then I'll ream it to a 1/2 inch, and then we should be able to put our pin in and it'll be perfect. Okay, I didn't film doing this because it's too hard to hold the camera and try to get a piece in there. But as you can see, when I move back and forth, you can barely see the shim stock moving. So I've got it where I want it, and that'll be 3000. So when I pull it out, it should have exactly what we need, and then we'll raise up and do our hole. But I'm going to get a tripod here real soon, and I had one and a part of it got lost, and it was a little cheap one, but I want to get a decent tripod that is high enough so I can sit in here and do this stuff, and that way I won't be showing you this while I've got the camera. I think I usually do it like this, and I know it's aggravating, and it's aggravating for me when I go to edit it to see some of the stupid stuff I do. So, alright, I'll show you more. Alright, nobody stopped me. I like to messed up. You know, I was setting that up, and I was setting it up over here, and I wasn't even lined up with the lobe where our lifter's going to be. So I almost messed up. So if you caught it, you're good, but I doubt anybody caught that. Not on camera anyway. Alright, I'm back. We got it back where we want it. Exactly where it needs to be. Alright, we're in there. I may change a little plans on this one though, because of this lobe and the base circle being bigger and it being so close to the top here. I may not run a cam follower on this one. The plan was to build one on a pivot and then drill and put another bolt in here, but if I don't, I'll end up putting another bolt in here anyway and just not run the cam follower off of it. Yeah, it's a lot closer. There's less, I'd say a little less than an inch between there. Okay folks, I've got me a guide made, 5/16 hole. It looks like I may have shortened the top up though, because the valve goes actually into the guide. So before I do that, I'm just going to cut me a short piece. I'm going to stick in there. I could have brought the guide down a little bit more, I guess, but I'm really not liking the side load on it. It still worries me. I can't bring the guide all the way down, where I would want to bring it. So I'm probably still going to run a cam follower just to be on the safe side. And but I am going to go ahead and cut me a piece and stick in there and do some valve checking. Make sure that this is not too much lift. Make sure the spring's not going to bottom out. And I'll show you as I go. Okay, I cut a piece and put in, and it's just a little tiny bit of play in it. I probably only got I don't know, a couple thousandths, 3/1000 maybe. That's enough to check it. I'm going to go ahead and put our valve spring back on and see what it looks like when I turn it over. Now my rod is in there. You can hear it tapping around. But besides that, we're good. All right. Okay folks, here's what we've got. We've got the spring on. I cut this, put it in, and we're gonna spin it over here. And there's definitely not gonna collapse our spring or nothing at that lift, as you can see. But you know, that the ramp angle on that lobe, and you can excuse that rod running around in there. I mean, it turns easy. I'm turning it by hand, you know, but it still worries me. I don't like that. I don't like the side load on that because of the distance. So I'm going to go ahead and put a follower in it. I'm going to use, this is another piece of the spring steel for brakes, and you know, of course the cam's hard as a rock. This piece is hard as a rock. We're going to, of course, we'll have to shorten it, but I couldn't even cut that with the bandsaw. I ended up having to cut it with a cutoff wheel. But we're going to basically make a piece that goes in and just goes between it. And I'm going to do a little different this time. I'm actually going to weld the end of the spring to a piece like this, and then we're going to make a shoulder bolt to go in and hold it, and then we'll have to space it out where we need it. But that way that'll get us another bolt in here too. It'll go through into the block, and that'll give us a follower, so I won't be so worried about that, because you know, that side to side load, you know, it's going to put side load on my guide eventually and wear it out. So this is just something that we can do that make it last long enough where, you know, if I did want to run it for a few hours, you know, it's not going to hurt anything. All right, let me get at that and I'll see if I can get something made. Okay folks, here's where we're at. I've got my cam follower made, and as you can see, and like I said, I've done this one different. I put it on a pivot, and it's actually welded in to a bushing that's on the outside, and then we drilled and bolted the center bushing, you know, directly to it, and I've got a lock washer and everything on it, so it'll work fine. Let's go ahead and see if we can get the cylinder on, get the valve back in the head or in the cylinder, and we'll see how she works. Okay, got it together. We're going to see what it looks like here. Got probably a little more gap in it than I'd want, but I've got plenty of that hardened shaft. We can make another one when we get ready, and I don't want to do the final until I, you know, do the final assembly. But anyway, and a little different than the last one, but it'll work, no problem. And again, that's hardened, and that's hardened, that's hardened. So I mean, everything should hold up really well. The difference is we've got a bushing in this one, and it's actually machined inside the bushing for oil to go in, and I left enough in this to where we can get oil in it, no problem. And I think it'll all work out really good. And like I said, we can do our gap when we do the final assembly. I think it's going to work really good. Now I've got a thread issue with the end of this. I don't want to cut it any shorter. I really don't want to file any threads off, so I'm going to show you what I've got and what I'm going to try to do in the next video. Okay, here's a couple of sets that a friend of mine actually brought to me and gave me. I've been friends with him for about 20 years, and actually he brought something over that needed some drilling and tapping and stuff done, and I done it for him, and I mean, I didn't charge him. Of course, he's a friend of mine. So anyway, about a week later he came back bringing these. So and this is not what you think it is. It's not what it wasn't what I thought it was. This actually is not a tap set. This is a thread repair die, and you actually put these on past the you know, your problem. And let me see, there we go. Well, they're split. There you go. they split in two. You put it past your problem and then you draw it back to you and take it off, and that's how you do the repair. And it works really good on the ends of shafts and stuff. And this is the SAE set, and this is the metric set. And so I think we've got the one we need in here, and we will see if we can work with it. Matter of fact, I know we do, because it's a 10 millimeter, and it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3. 3 10 millimeters. That's all three said thread pitches, the 150, the 125, and the 1. So I am sure we've got what we need to take care of our problem. And just got to figure out which thread I need. But yeah, that'll it's pretty neat. You know, 2 pieces, you put it on, snap it together, and then put your holder on it, and then draw them off. So anyway, never used one, never seen one before, but we'll make use of it for sure. Alright, I think that's going to be it. And appreciate everybody watching, and until next time, bye.
Hey, well, God's blessings, and you know what to do. Have a bless on.